Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Horror Nights.
The Eyeless One. We shouldn't have laughed at the warning. Ben, Chloe, Derek, and I had driven up from the city for one last stupid adventure before real life swallowed us whole. Blackwood Forest was only 20 minutes from my grandparents' old house, and the locals still told me the same story they told us as kids. Deep in the pines lived the Eyeless One, an old woman who had traded her sight for her dying daughter's life centuries ago. The bargain went wrong. Now she wandered the woods forever, hollow sockets dripping shadows, stealing the souls of children to keep her own flickering. Bodies turned up with the eyes neatly gone, mouths frozen mid-scream. We were 22. We thought legends were for campfires and cowers. The trail was easy at first. Golden afternoon light, birds, the smell of pine and damp earth. Then the fog came. Not weather fog. This was thick and wet and wrong, rolling between the trees like something alive. We lost the path in 30 seconds. Phones showed no bars. Voices started to echo strangely, as if the woods were answering us with our own words a half second too late. "Stick together," I said. A child's giggle drifted from off the trail. High, sweet, impossible. Derek's eyes lit up. Probably some local kids screwing with us. He plunged into the brush before we could stop him. The rest of us followed for maybe 10 yards before the ground gave way under us. Not a bridge, just a sudden crumbling lip of earth that sent us sliding down a ravine in different directions. I hit the bottom alone, ankle twisted, mouthful of dirt. The others' shouts were already fading, swallowed by the fog. I called their names until my throat burned. Nothing came back except that same childish giggle, closer now. Derek went first. I found his Red Sox cap 20 minutes later hanging from a low branch like an offering. Then I heard him, laughing, relieved. "Guys, over here! Found a cool cabin!" I crashed towards the sound, heart hammering. The trees opened on a small clearing. Derek stood with his back to me, facing a hunch-shaped Fulton log. An old woman in a threadbare black shawl, gray hair stringy over her shoulders. She looked frail, harmless. "Lady, you okay?" Derek asked, stepping closer. She turned. Where her eyes should have been were two raw, black pits, edges crusted and wet, as if something had scooped them out long ago and the wounds had never closed. The sockets seemed to pull the light out of the air. She smiled with too many teeth. "Come to Grandma, child," she whispered in Derek's mother's voice. He didn't have time to scream. She rose, fast, too fast, and laid one gnarled hand on his chest. His body jerked once like a puppet with cut strings. I watched the color drain from his face, eyes cloud over and sink inward until only dark, empty holes remained. The soul light left him in a single wet breath that smelled like spoiled milk and candle smoke. He folded to the ground, just meat. I ran. Chloe lasted longer. I found her huddled against a boulder, phone flashlight trembling. "Sarah," she gasped. "Derek's gone. Something took him." Her voice cracked. Then she cocked her head, listening. "Wait. That's Ben calling me. You hear that?" She stood up, smiling through tears. "Ben! We're here!" The voice that answered wasn't Ben's, perfectly pleading. "Chloe, hurry, she's right." She bolted towards her. I tried to follow, but the fog thickened until I couldn't see my own hands. I heard her footsteps, her sudden, terrible laugh, like she'd been told the funniest joke in the world. Then silence. When I finally broke through the trees, her body sat propped against a pine, eyes gone, mouth still stretched in that awful, delighted grin. Ben found me next, or I found what was left of him. He tried to fight. There were broken branches everywhere and blood under his nails. The Eyeless One had simply waited him out. I saw her from a distance this time, slow, patient, shuffling between the trunks like a patient spider. Ben's scream lasted only 3 seconds before it turned to the same wet exhale I had heard with Derek. I ran before she could turn her face my way. I was alone. I ran until my lungs tore. The woods seemed endless, every tree identical, every shadow shaped like her. She never ran. She never needed to. I'd hear the soft drag of her feet, the lullaby hum that sounded like my own childhood voice singing to me to sleep. Once I felt her cold fingers brush the back of my neck and smelled that same spoiled milk stench. I didn't look back. Somehow, miracle or curse, I burst onto the old service road where we parked. The car was still there. I drove like the devil himself was in the back seat, screaming the whole way to the county sheriff's station in Millbridge. They put me in a quiet room with coffee I couldn't drink. An old sheriff with gray mustache sat across from me. He listened without interrupting while I poured out the story. Derek, Chloe, Ben, the empty eye sockets, the child's giggle, the way she stole their souls like sips of water. When I finished, the sheriff sighed, long and tired. "Sarah," he said gently, "those names, Ben, Chloe, Derek, they were your friends, all right. Back in 2005. You were all 8 years old. You four wandered into the Blackwood looking for the witch's house kids talked about. 3 of you never came out. You did. Barely. They found you sitting on the roadside at dusk, rocking back and forth, eyes gone. Doctor said it was some kind of animal attack, but you kept telling the same story you just told me, word for word." He slid an old newspaper across the table. The headline read, "3 children missing in Blackwood, sole survivor found blind." A faded color photo showed 4 gap-toothed kids in matching red jackets. I recognized my own 8-year-old face instantly. The other 3 were Ben, Chloe, and Derek, exactly how they had looked an hour ago. I tried to laugh. It came out a whimper. "That's impossible. We graduated together last month. My hand rose to my face before I could stop it. My fingers found only smooth, scarred skin stretched over empty sockets. No eyes, no eyelids, just hollowed bone. Yet I could see the sheriff perfectly, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead, the coffee stain on his tie, the pity in his expression. He leaned forward. His own eyes were gone too. 2 neat, ancient pits that had been empty for decades. "She didn't kill you that day, Sarah," he whispered. "She made you hers. Every few years you come back. You bring her new children, college kids, runaways, whoever you could trick into the woods with you. You think they are your friends. She lets you keep thinking it's till the job's done. Then she sends you out again." He smiled that same too wide smile I had seen in the clearing. "Welcome home, child. She's been waiting." Behind him the hallway light flickered. I heard the soft shuffle of bare feet on the tile and the faint, sweet giggle of a little girl who had never left the woods. I opened my mouth to scream, but only that familiar, wet exhale came out.